Good evening and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Joined once again, George, Andrew, Adam, all back to talk a lot of NFL. And there's big announcements today. Huge announcement. We finally found out who's going to be playing the London game this year. 2 games at Tottenham, 1 game at Wembley. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming up against the Denver Broncos will be the Wembley game on October 30th. On October 9th, we'll be seeing the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers competing against each other, which has made 2 of our podcasters very happy because obviously the world doesn't know this, but congratulations to Andrew. Andrew's going to be getting married on October 2nd. And we thought when the fixtures were getting announced, we saw that the Packers could get the Giants. There was a massive worry that, Adam, Andrew, it could happen on the wedding day. I mean,
he was going to die. That was what was going to happen. He was going to die if it fell on the same day.
Well, Adam was all very happy.
Very lucky.
He felt very privileged to be invited to Andrew's wedding. And then when the realisation that he was in the NFL London season, he suddenly was very much backtracking. Imagine if he was the best man. It would have been, well, imagine if he was getting married, but that was Andrew's place to take. But luckily for them, the honeymoon between Andrew and his newly wife will be postponed just slightly, so him and Adam can go on their own honeymoon off to Tottenham. Being both Arsenal fans as well, that is, it's double love there. Being at the Spurs ground, watching their 2 teams, so that's going to be good fun. Daniel Jones v Aaron Rodgers, and of course the first game will be at the Tottenham Stadium on October 2nd on Andrew's wedding day. We may sneak off at speeches to go and have a little check out of this game. So Vikings against the New Orleans Saints. That's not just it, because obviously there is now a game in Germany this year. So for all them people who want to go to Munich at the Allianz Arena, probably home of Bayern Munich, I'm sure I think that is the location that I've seen now. Seattle Seahawks against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lots of rumors it was going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, but we'd see Patrick Mahomes against Tom Brady in Germany. But no, it'll be Drew Lock v Tom Brady in Germany, which maybe doesn't have the same ring to it. Maybe Baker Mayfield against Tom Brady could be a better ring to it. We never know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And of course, the annual game in Mexico City, the San Francisco 49ers facing off against the Arizona Cardinals. And I was marginally thinking the Steelers were going to play there because Najee Harris did a pick from Mexico.
Yeah.
Weird, like, why is this happening sort of thing. And you're going, surely he's going to go, this is where we're going to be, and this draft pick, you're going to be able to see Mexico because we're going to be playing here. And that just didn't happen. It's going to be the Cardinals against the 49ers. Great fun. The game coming back to England, a lot of things to look forward to. 2 at Tottenham, a great stadium it's been. We've all been there now. All 4 of us have been to the Tottenham Stadium now after some of us missing out on the first year. If it was at Spurs, 1 game back at Wembley. Jags obviously returning, still having that deal to be able to play over here. Andrew, I know it's going to be wedding season for you, buddy, but surely, I mean, you get married, you get it done, the ring's got on the fingers, you have that photography bit. You could sneak off and watch the Vikings Saints game for a little moment, can't you? Can't we? We at least have it on our phones, can't we?
I mean, I reckon if we put it on a screen behind me, she'll never see it. So all of you guys that are on the tables in front of us, you'll be able to see it. She'll be like, oh, everyone's so engaged with us. They're looking at us all the time. So, yeah, I think I can sacrifice it for you guys and put it behind us. We'd be all right.
I mean, what's worse is you're probably going to be concentrating on the tight end that you pick up that week because you usually pick up the tight end that is at the London game. So, it's going to be the wife and whatever tight end it is for the Giants or for the Green Bay Packers that week. Adam, it was great fun last year. It was finally the official meeting of like us with you, really. It was the first time I met you and your wife. We had a really great time together. I know we met each other after the game. We had a few drinks, didn't we? And the games last year were not, they weren't great, but it was still nice to be amongst that atmosphere, right? And it's going to be good fun again this year, I hope.
Yeah, I think the one thing we can all say is that the games are slightly better this year, thank God. Last year wasn't great. It was a lot of teams that weren't really doing very well. This year, I'm not saying that they're amazing because I don't think they are amazing. And the rumours were that the Packers could have been playing the Rams, which would have been an amazing game to have over here. But on a personal note for us, obviously Packers Giants is the one that we're kind of looking forward to. But I think seeing the Broncos against the Jags would be really good. Russell Wilson, quite a new team at the Broncos, so I think that will be really exciting. Seeing Trevor Lawrence again, seeing if he can improve with actually a half decent coach would be quite nice. And then obviously we won't be going to the Saints Vikings game because some lunatic has decided it's a good idea to have a wedding on a Sunday in October. But the Saints-Vikings games, you've got a couple of decent teams there. So, you know, out of the three, that's the one that I'm not too upset about missing. But yeah, I think that they're better than last year, and hopefully be able to see lots of people down there.
And of course, as soon as the games were announced, George cracked out his leather-bound file of facts to search them contacts he has. His finger is on the pulse in the NFL world. Obviously, George has lots of things, lots of pies and lots of projects within the NFL UK community. You know him from a lot of podcasts. I mean, you're going to be sidelined, surely, George. You're going to be breathing of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, surely. I mean,
listen,
realities on the ground, aren't you?
I wish. One day, don't get me wrong, one day, absolutely. But no, it's going to be great. It's good to have, like Adam says, some decent-ish games. Obviously, it's a shame we don't get to see Vontae Adams, because I think that's what everybody wanted to see. You hear Aaron Rodgers and you coin him with, you know, Vontae Adams. So, but we can't complain. We've got Russell Wilson. You get to see the likes of Kamara in the backfield and whatever they're going to do at the Broncos. And I mean, it's not awful. And just to say, the Giants game last season, I probably would have said no, but this season, I mean, seeing who they've drafted, they could make some noise in this game. You know, Packers still got to figure it out slightly. And obviously they probably will by then. So I think, you know, maybe we could be in for a bit of a closer game than we think. You know, things happen when you travel across the waters and you play over here. So I think it's not all bad. It's not all bad. And it's good to see that there's more games across the globe as well.
And we're going to be seeing new talents here in the UK, obviously, as well. Chris Olave, Christian Watson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal. Hopefully all these new players from the draft will be playing in these London games. It's going to be a lot of fun. We will probably be telling you close to time whether we got tickets or not. And then I'm sure there'll be ticket fever that will strike through the NFL UK community through the summer. I wouldn't worry too much. It was a lot easier than you all made out last year. So don't hit the panic button just yet. Get over it, and we'll have a good time. It's just there's too much upset in the NFL UK world sometimes. It's quite easy to get tickets. Just be prepared and don't turn up 10 minutes late. Just book the day off if you have to. If it's that important, you're going to be able to get the tickets. We're going to hopefully be there, all of us, whether we're there for all the games, whether they're for summer games. Obviously, we're going to miss one game for others anyway, but we will definitely be there for the most part and live a little bit down the road. So even if I can't get to a game, I'll be definitely in the area. So it's going to be a lot of fun seeing all you NFL UK fans down there. And it's great fun every year. It's great meeting everybody. It's great seeing faces that we do podcasts with, that we talk to online, and supporters of us as well. It's always great fun. So hopefully, we've got something very much to look forward to going into the NFL season. However, today, like the title says, the best draft since when Kevin Costner drafted Vontae Mack. He never regretted it. He had it on the yellow piece of paper. It folded in his pocket, his whole film. What a film. I'm sure a lot of you watched it before draft day to get you in the mood, especially all you Cleveland Browns fans. I'm sure they did that as well. But we're going to talk about who we felt were winners and losers in draft. Obviously, it is a little bit early to tell. However, with the college knowledge that we have over here at the Franchise Tag Podcast and our general NFL knowledge, we know after free agency, after some of the moves that were made, after some of the trades that were made, and also the draft as well, what teams, what players are looking at a more brighter future, and what players and teams maybe are going to be scratching their head about the decisions that were made during this period, during this March and April period, which has just been probably the most exciting one we've had in recent history, really. So many moves, so many trades, so many draft picks, such an exciting draft as well. I mean, we're talking teams, we're talking players. We haven't exactly got an agenda for going around the wheel talking about a specific team and going around the wheel talking about a specific player or anything like that. So I'm just going to hit off of Andrew straight away because he wasn't here last week to talk with us about the NFL reaction. I suppose you might as well give your reaction now as well, Andrew, because I know you were up all night with me. We were texting away the whole night. For once, you could have had an early night with 2 early draft picks, no movement for the New York Giants, but you stayed up, you persevered, and you saw some of your team pick 2 players, some of your Ohio State players that you love go to some great teams as well. Give us your reaction from the NFL draft and who you thought is maybe a winner and a loser.
Yeah, I mean, like the title says, for me as well, it was one of the most exciting drafts to stay up and watch. The amount of movement that there was that you guys spoke about. And I was never going to be going to sleep after the Giants picks. You know, I've invested a lot of time in watching these college teams, and I wanted to see where the guys that I've watched land is really exciting for me. Even if even the undrafted free agents, as soon as the draft finished the next morning, I was up checking where they all got signed to and things like that. So yeah, it was, like you say, one of the best drafts to stay up and watch. So yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was great fun. Giants, well, yeah, I said you couldn't sleep, but I don't think any Giants fans slept that night after getting Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, both touted to be the first pick in the draft only months prior. Like I said, Andrew, you know these college players so well, and give me a winner or a loser of the night, or maybe even team. What was your what opinion are you going to put out today on this podcast for us to all hear about the NFL Draft 2022?
I think it's really unfair for me to go first on this one because I don't want to go in on these teams and take them away from the other two guys on their reactions. I'd really like to know what they think, and then I'll weigh in on it.
Okay, well, George, you can go first and be open to Andrew's first criticism.
Yeah.
Strikes back at you, so be prepared, strap in, because he's never not harsh. He knows he's good.
I think for me, a loser, I'm going to start with, has to be Ryan Tannehill. Has to be Ryan Tannehill. And the reason I say that is not only about the recent news, we'll come to that, but I mean, you look at the way they finished their season. He finished with 3 picks against Cincinnati, which wasn't great. There was a lot of talk about, when you lose Derrick Henry, what can you really do? Granted, they had Julio, who doesn't really stay fit and isn't really a factor anymore. But they obviously draft Malik Willis, who was a lot of people touted to go number 1, as in the number 1 drafted quarterback, and he wasn't. And then we kind of, see that, which is essentially his replacement, by the way, pretty much Ryan Tannehill's replacement. People compare Malik Willis to Josh Allen in the sense that he has the athleticism and the arm to become one of the great ones, which is fair enough. But for Tannehill to, I'm sure you've all seen it, and everybody watching has probably seen or heard Tannehill's point of view with regards to whether he needs to sort of mentor Malik Willis, and pretty much has just said no. We're in competition with each other, which I completely understand from a quarterback mindset. You're number 1 there, supposedly number 1 anyway. And the flip side is, you're supposed to be the leader of this team. You're supposed to show leadership, whether that means you support the guy underneath you, because, said guys like Warner has come out and said, that's not a leadership mentality. You're supposed to bring the guys up underneath you. You're supposed to, I think they say teach one, reach one, or reach one, teach one, just to pass along the progression, the learning, everything about the NFL, because it isn't easy. So for Tannehill to come out and say what he said, bearing in mind he's also lost his number 1 receiver in AJ Brown, who's now with the Eagles. And if you also throw in the fact that apparently the word on the block is the Titans didn't actually have any kind of conversation with Ryan Tannehill before they actually drafted Malik Willis. And some teams do that out of respect, just to let their quarterback know, look, this is the situation. They didn't really do that. They didn't do that for Ryan Tannehill. So that kind of, I don't know if that's what's goaded him into this message that he's put out there, as if to say, look, I'm the guy here. I don't really care about you, Malik. I'm not going to help you. That's not my job. And like I said, I get it in the sense that you're focused on what you need to do to take the team forward, right? However, it doesn't look very good. It doesn't come across very well. It comes across very salty, very bitter. It comes across like someone who's scared. That's what it sounds like to me. And I feel like he's afraid of potentially losing his job, because the word around the curb is already some of the players are thinking, wow, that's meant to be my quarterback. That's meant to be my leader of the team. I'm following under your guidance. And if you're here sort of throwing shade already at the guy who's just been drafted, it doesn't really bode well with the locker room. And this is how these kind of things start. Tannehill isn't the greatest of quarterbacks in the first place to kind of go down that road. And I feel like he's dug himself a little bit of a hole. Although I get it, I do understand his point of view, but I still feel, the reach one, teach one, whichever way around it is, you need to kind of have that helping hand. And Brett, I think there's a similar thing with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. The relationship wasn't great. And I know, Adam, you'll touch on that as well. But I don't think it's great. It's not a great look. It's definitely a loss for him, in particular because of the talent and potential that Malik Willis can bring to the Titans. So I feel like, he's going to be looking over his shoulder. And I've already heard some quotes at Titans saying that when people see Malik Willis throw, they're going to be questioning who should be the number 1 quarterback. Now that's trouble.
Yeah, I kind of agree. When it comes to Tannehill, I mean, he was on my list of losers for the weekend, draft weekend. I think it does kind of remind you a little bit of the Favre-Rodgers relationship, a tiny bit, where basically the sort of like the elder statesman has gone, sod it, I don't care, I'm not going to mentor you, I'm going to look after number one, which is, it's awkward to say the least. That's the main problem with it. But I think with Favre and Rodgers, and even a couple of years ago with Rodgers, it kind of felt like that was a similar thing that was happening with him and Love. But the difference is that they're so good, or for Favre, he was so good at the time that it's okay. You can be a bit temperamental, you can be like that, and you can get away with it. With Tannehill, he's just not that quality. He's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people underrate Tannehill, and that actually he's not as bad as what a lot of people make out. You got to remember, this is a team that hasn't really been around for a long time, and yet they've just won the division and got in the playoffs. I know it didn't end well, but he's still got them there. So he's not the worst quarterback, but yeah, it's awkward, and it's probably going to be a bit of a problem for them in the future. And unfortunately, losing AJ Brown, drafting your replacement, it's not a great draft for you.
Yeah, I kind of agree with some of that, but I'm on Tannehill's side with this one. He's not a quarterback in a team where he's looking to retire. When you had Eli Manning or Ben Roethlisberger or like any of those lot, they were like, "Oh, I'm on my way out. I'm going to retire soon. Maybe look at bringing in someone to replace me." And then you've got that sort of a mentor. And he's not that. I mean, he still wants to play, still wants to be the number one guy. He has taken them to the playoffs last 3 years. He's playing for his money, isn't he? He's playing for his money. And I feel like when someone's come in to challenge you for your spot, why would you teach them or mentor them, should I say, to take your place? I just don't think he should be that. I think he should be a good teammate. I think, when they're on the field, if Malik Willis is doing well, he should pat him on the back, say, "Great job, you're doing well." If Malik Willis asks him for any advice or tips, he should give him them, but I don't think he should mentor him, because he's literally playing for his place. I think Tannehill feels like he's got maybe 2, 3, 4 more years in there. The big thing for me with the whole Titans is this is real weird. They're a team that has been winning their division. They've been in the playoffs. They were like big favorites going into the playoffs last year, and they get rid of their number one receiver. They bring in a rookie quarterback. They even brought in Hassan Haskins as well, like the big back from Michigan. And I think, if I'm right in saying that, Derrick Henry is on a contract year. Is next year he's out of contract? 2023 is his last year. Are you going to pay a running back a big bill? Is this somewhat of a very early rebuild at the Titans? That's real weird when you're a team that's winning your division.
I think with the Henry thing is, we've seen it in history. Once that running back gets just that one injury, it becomes that really slippery slope where they might not be out again for like 8-9 weeks, season-ending injury again, but they'll just have this niggle every year where there may be 3 games or 2 games on miss, then they'll be back for another 4, then we'll be gone again for 3. And I think what they're maybe worrying about is that, Henry's never really been that injured. He's had a couple of knocks, and then he's had a very substantial injury last year. They had a pretty decent backup in what was his name? Vontae Foreman, wasn't it?
Foreman was great. I really liked him.
Foreman was really good. So they've looked to the future there. I think it would be unwise of them to move off him after his contract year. However, the running backs we're getting paid around the league, is it that worth it, really? I don't know whether it is. I know running back position out and skill positions in NFL, offensively wise, is at the pinnacle, really. It's the peak of it's ever been. It is the most valuable that it has ever been. But there still is that mentality of when they're coming through so good, the college players now, and they're so dominant, and you can get pretty much a good running back year in, year out. Or, okay, they're not going to maybe be Derrick Henry's level, but they will still be very good. And we also forget that Derrick Henry didn't pop till like what, year 3? He really popped to then. So he when you come in and run back now at 22 or 21 or 23, even when you get drafted, you're meant to hit the pace straight away, and reasonably you're going to have 5 good years. We had 3 years taken away straight away because he didn't perform at that level, and then has popped, and has been there for what, like 4 years. He's been in the
3-4 years, something like that.
Something like that. What he's got maybe. If tread on the tires, has he got 2 years left in him? Maybe.
Look at McCaffrey.
Longer, but 2 or 3 elite years, pending if he doesn't get a really serious injury again. So I can understand that. I'm very jealous that they got Malik. Obviously, you all know my feelings on Malik Willis. I really did want him, and I think it's wise by the Titans. If you look at it, Tannehill's on a lot more money than Malik Willis will be. They move off Tannehill, they move off AJ Brown. That's not a large contract. It feels a little bit Patriotsy. Funnily enough, with Mark Vrabel being there, it feels Mike Vrabel, sorry, not Mark Vrabel. It feels a bit Patriot. They don't want to pay loads of people loads of money. They did it with Henry, but he was the guy. It does feel like, moving off of players that want the big contracts. I'm not saying they are like the Patriots. I'm not going to be the dynasty of the Patriots. Don't get me wrong. Like, I can see Adam smiling at me like you're an idiot here, buddy. But you see the concept that I mean, though. They are moving off of people, but they don't want to pay. It
does feel a bit Patriotsy, but the one thing I would say is I don't think Vrabel was particularly happy about the move of getting rid of AJ Brown from what I saw.
No, he wanted to stay, didn't he? He wanted to stay, but it's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're very right. Right, Adam, we move on to you. Have you got a winner or a loser from the 2022 NFL draft?
Well, as we've started with the losers, I think we should carry on with the losers. Starters we mean to go on and all that. There was a few. I really wanted to give the Bears a kick in. I really did. Their draft was appalling. But there is one person who, even worse than Tannehill, had an even worse draft, and he had absolutely nothing to do with the draft at all. And that was Baker Mayfield. He's not starting anywhere. He's not. That's it. This season, he's with the Browns. Enjoy your time on the bench, because that's where you're going to be.
He may not be on the bench game 1, though.
It's just it's a real shame.
It's mental. It's really crazy what's happened. I thought he'd done okay. I really did think he'd done all right, and that he wasn't that bad. And when you look at the teams where there were still potential spots, you had the Panthers, who took Matt Corral. You had the Seahawks, who took no one, but have basically come out and said that they're not interested. They have come out and said that that's it for them, and that they're not going to go down that route. I don't know. I mean, he's going to be earning over $18 million next year. No one wants to pay it. So the only way he moves to a different team is if they release him. I can't imagine they're going to release him, because then that would be not getting anything for him. Just a real sort of disaster of a weekend where there's still no spots for him. And a guy who, got them to the playoffs not that long ago and was the number 1 pick is now sitting on the bench, not really doing a lot, and being almost like a bit of a nuisance for the team, where, who knows what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. Like you say, he might start week 1 because of it, but as soon as Watson's ready to go, that's it.
Yeah. It's a really weird one, because there was a lot of talk about Baker joining the Colts, and there was so much of it that I jumped in the bandwagon, and I was like, you know what, if it gives this guy time to heal. He played hurt, and I say it over and over again, in particular at the quarterback position. Playing hurt is all great, and it's all the heroic stuff, but you can't do anything for your team. You really can't. So I was more than happy for him to come over, get the shoulder healed up. That doesn't happen, and we obviously get Matt Ryan, which I'm also pleased with. But you said it. I just don't know what next. No one wants to pay just under $19 million for him. We know what. I think one of the issues is a lot of the people in the league see him as drama, which I kind of understand, but also I think it's a little bit unfair considering how much he gave to the Browns. He's the best quarterback they've had in, I don't know, God knows how long. What I will say is I think the one spot I could potentially see him at It was the Seahawks, but not anymore because of what they've come out and said. But I think maybe the Lions, being the one team that I can see giving him a shot. Jared Goff isn't the answer. We know that. He's okay-ish. But if you bring in Stafford, if you bring in Baker Mayfield, fully healed, you may even see a competition between Jared and Baker for the number 1 spot. I mean, aside from that, I think it's just it's a kick in the teeth for him to go as one of the starting quarterbacks in the league to potentially being on a bench it doesn't as much as he's not that popular, it just doesn't feel right. It just feels really, really unfair. And I know it's business, but the way it's ended for him hasn't been great. And I do feel for the guy.
Yeah, I think also you're going to see a lot of teams holding off on even going for him based on the strength of the quarterbacks going in the draft next year. You've got 2 absolute studs in there, and then maybe 3 to 4 guys that are all being touted as being round 1s already. So that, it's 5 quarterbacks you're going to see where you are in the draft before you go in. Like say, you don't want to be paying the money for Baker when there's those guys in there. So I think a lot of people will be put off with having a gamble on him based on the fact of how strong the draft class is next year.
As for, I generally was, I thought we were going to go Colts. I thought that I would have put very good money on him going Colts. And I thought the Colts made sense as well. Baker's not got a great arm. He can do, and he's vaguely athletic. He has a good O-line there, just like he has in Cleveland. He'd have a great running game, just like he does in Cleveland. And he'd have serviceable wide receivers, just like he did in Cleveland. I honestly thought that made sense. And I am putting my Steelers cap on here a little bit. I don't think it is a shame. I don't feel sorry for Baker. Baker is just another serviceable quarterback that has been around, that has been to a team. And yet, okay, Cleveland was turning at this point. They picked him, they picked Denzel Ward. But no one thought he should have been the number 1 pick. It was a massive shock to everyone. Everyone thought that Sam Darnold should have been the number 1 pick, me included. And okay, that has not worked out. All right. No. And then it was Josh Rosen should be the number 1 pick.
Oh,
that's certainly not worked out. The only ones who worked out in that draft was Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So that they worked out, and Lamar has a timer on him, and Josh may go down as an all-time great if he carries on the trajectory that he's going on. It's too early to say on him yet, but he could well be. I'm sorry, but in the NFL now, at how competitive that QB position is, there is a serviceable quarterback group, which I neither love nor hate. And there's a lot of quarterbacks in that group. There is, and I understand that the NFL has to have sort of them in there because there isn't enough great quarterback. If every quarterback on every team was Patrick Mahomes, then it would just be a bit dull, wouldn't it? We wouldn't have different gameplay. But there is this genre of serviceable quarterback that just knocks around. The Steelers have one, Mitch Trubisky. I'm okay saying that. Dak Prescott, Jimmy G, Baker's in there as well. They neither make the league better nor worse. I'm not bothered. They don't excite me. And it's not to say that they don't deserve. Of course, they deserve a place. They've worked incredibly hard to get to that point. But with the amount of college quarterbacks who are coming through at the minute who have this potential to be really great, and even when they don't get drafted in the first round, again, second round, the third round now, they still have this potential to be great. There is so much time going through that. If you do not make your mark in the NFL very, very quick in that short space of time, you become redundant very quickly. The only one in recent history, funnily enough, and we've talked about already, who has flipped that is Ryan Tannehill. He went from Mr. Irrelevant in Miami and then has totally reinvented himself in Tennessee. But that was their gameplay, that was their offense, and that was their style that they were going for. They were not ever going to be dependent on Ryan Tannehill to win them games. You've got to take your moment to shine. Baker was never going to be the most elite quarterback, but he did need to be in a system that serviced his attributes. He is in that, I think. Great running game, serviceable wide receivers, fantastic O-line. And yet he took them to the first playoff game in God knows how many years. But yes, and they beat the Steelers. I know that as well. They didn't beat the Steelers convincingly, though. The Steelers lost the game themselves. It wasn't the Browns' great win. It was the Steelers' great loss. And the games, there's not that many memorable Baker moments, is there? And that's just what it is for them serviceable quarterbacks. There is a place for the league in there for them that if they don't take their moment, they will be forgotten about. And some of them do take their moment and they have their 5 minutes in the sunshine, but they get brought back down to earth very quickly. So it's a shame that he's a bit. It is a shame that the Browns have done him over a bit. I do admit that. I don't think it's right. But you bring in Watson, then you have him sitting there. There should have been a plan. There should have been phone calls making. If we get him in, you're going here, and it's been a lot more transactional than it was, rather than this sitting and waiting moment. I do feel sorry for him about that. But as far as it's a shame that he's just going to be sitting there, but no team's gone for him. No, it's not a shame, because I look around at the moment. The Seahawks. He could go and work there. The Seahawks are happy to tank and get a great quarterback next year. Daniel Jones not getting his 5th-year option picked up by the Giants. They could easily go for Baker next year. No, they're going to look at both the guys who are going to be at the top of the draft. There is so much college quarterbacks coming out now that if you don't make your moment, you're going to be forgotten about very quickly. And that's the story of Baker Mayfield. And it's a story for a lot of quarterbacks out there. I feel like I'm picking on Baker a bit. But that is the story for so many of them quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you have to take your moments. And he didn't take his moment in what was a really, really capable Cleveland team. And a team last year that we said would blow the AFC wide open, that could really compete for the Super Bowl. They just didn't hit the mark at all, really, last year. And that's, again, coming from a Steeler who played them twice and saw how good they were. They didn't blow that division out of the water. And the Steelers were not good last year. And the Ravens were not good last year. And the Bengals came out of nowhere and were great. So that's in on its own, I suppose. Andrew, you've weighed in, but it's now we're itching to hear your college knowledge about everything. You're going to now talk about some 6th round guy who's going to set the world alight at the college position. Now, it seems to be every wide receiver goes to the Colts you love, so it's probably going to be someone like that. Or what player are you going to be? Is going to be on the tip of your tongue for the 2022 draft?
I mean, I was going to weigh in on my loser. Adam almost brought it up a little bit there. My loser was a quarterback as well. It was Justin Fields.
That's a good one.
The Bears did nothing to help him, and that organization is literally just so bad for a guy that you traded up to that's a good talent. So we'll skip over that. If we're going like looking at winners, it's a really easy one. I think everybody's saying the same names. Everyone's saying the Ravens, the Chiefs, things like that. But I can't get over the Jets draft, really. For me, their first 5 picks for me were all massive, big hits. They're all like day one starters. I think they've really, really hit the nail on the head with every single one of those 5 picks. That is building a team. They've given themselves a chance to catch up with Miami and the Patriots. I'm not sure how far behind they are, but that is a great platform to start on. And especially, I think for me, when you look at the Jets draft and you look at like where it all landed for them, I feel like it just panned out perfect for them. It's almost like how I wanted the Giants draft to go, to get Sauce, to get Wilson, to trade. They went big. They traded up. They got Jermaine Johnson. I mean, they've
done really well.
They were on everybody's big board top 10. So they got 3 top 10 players in the first round, and Breece Hall was the number 1 running back going into this draft class. And Jeremy Rucker was probably the number 2. It was my number 2 anyway. A lot of people's top 5, top 2 tight ends. I mean, what more can they do? It's hard for me to say the other team in New York how blown away I am by what they did, but you only have to look at it to commend what they do. Can they turn this and Zach Wilson turn this into challenging in that division, or are they still just too far behind?
You're right, man. The Jets, for me, all of those picks are game changers. They're guys that can completely change a franchise. Just look at the Bengals. I know they made some other moves, but Jamar Chase set their team alight, right? I mean, from news reports about him not being able to catch passes in practice to completely destroying the league, running away from guys week after week. Then you look at what the Jets have done. It's pretty good. I mean, you said it. They've set themselves up really well. They've, all the different positions. They've equipped Zach Wilson with talent in the backfield. The tight end that you mentioned, they've done really, really, really well. And another winner that I want to jump on is the University of Georgia. I mean, Yeah, you've
You
seen what they've
nicked
done.
my winner, god damn you.
You can't. It's too. I mean, just look at what they've done. You win the national championship this season just gone, thanks to probably the best defense that they had in the league. And then they made history by having 5 defensive players drafted in the first round, and then you go on to having 15 players in total drafted from University of Georgia, which is also another NFL record. The number 1 pick, Walker, it says it all, an absolute beast of a player. So the university, I mean, it almost like goes in waves. We've seen what LSU has produced in the likes of like Tyrann Mathieu and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and all the guys that have come from there. Burrow himself. And now you look at Georgia, all these guys that have been 15 guys. That's not that's a lot of players.
Yeah.
Yes,
spread out across. Not happy about it.
Honestly, yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly, that's a really great job by the University of Georgia. It's a reputation similar to LSU and obviously Ohio. You kind of know what you get, and you just have to look at some previous seasons, some of the names that I've mentioned, to see what happens to those particular guys who come from those sort of top 5 teams and where they end up and how they end up and what they go on to do in the league. So, without a doubt, Uni of Georgia. Year of the Dog, they've done it, and I can't wait to see what those players do. Walker is, I just can't wait to see him wreak some havoc in the league. But good on them.
Yeah, I agree with Georgia. I think it's crazy the amount of players that they got, and it's funny actually. It's like we were talking about the draft, and yet Trayvon Walker very rarely gets mentioned. It's really, really odd that that's what's happening at the moment. But yeah, I mean, what they did is amazing, and the fact that they beat the Ohio State record is just even better because it annoys Andrew. So that's a positive. I mean, so that's like for me. I mean, I was going Georgia. Obviously, the Eagles had a really good draft, but I can't keep going on about how amazing the Eagles are because it's just depressing me too much. So I'm going to go for the Ravens. I think the Ravens had a great draft. I think I do feel they went very much best player available with a lot of their picks at the time when it turned up. But I think they've brought in some really solid players that are going to help them out. Bear in mind, they had a lot of injuries last year, and I think they're a decent side anyway. You then put these players in as well. I think potentially they could be really good. Kyle Hamilton went to them. Tyler Linderbaum. Our guy, David Ojabo, went. I mean, he's not going to... Probably won't be starting anytime soon, but at least he went. David Falele, the giant, the monster that he is, and the
6'8", right? Something like that.
6'8", an insane amount of pounds. It's not normal for a human being, but there you go. And I know Andrew likes Isaiah Likely, the tight end. It's like there's another one who will be good for them. And I think they just they weren't spectacular, but they were just solid, and I think that's definitely something for them.
I've just had a really, really lovely text from my partner going, "Oh my God!" But for those who don't know, my girlfriend is a Minnesota Vikings fan, very much a fair weather fan of NFL. She obviously supports all of us on the podcast. Says, "Oh my God, baby, the Vikings are playing in London," and then a text later has gone, "And it's on the day of Andrew's wedding." I'm going to wear all 3 of these. I mean, I said to you, Andrew, a month ago, if there was one team that I could see doing a Bengals-esque thing in 2 years and really flipping and going from like absolute joke of the league to potentially being a Super Bowl team, I think the Lions are in the conversation. But I thought the Jets, because because of the draft picks they had and the squad I think they have already, they've not been good for a fair few years. But I generally, when I look at their roster, and some of you joked about it when we were doing like mock drafts and stuff, about me going like, their roster's actually quite stacked. And you're like, well, no, they've got gaps everywhere. Well, what have they gone and done? They've gone and filled every single gap to go and do that. And I don't think it's ridiculous now. I think the Lions are definitely in that conversation. And I think the Jets are in the conversation now. Now with the Bengals, 3 years ago, the Bengals were bottom of the bottom. And they totally flipped. And their squad just a mass turnover. They got the young players in. They filled the right positions. Feels a bit Jets and Lions-esque to me, and that so I don't think it's shocking that the Jets can really do something. The problem is they have the Bills in their division. That is their problem. But then I said for the Bengals, the problem is they have the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns in their division. And look what happened there. So things can move and change so quickly. The quality of quarterback in Buffalo is way better than the Browns, Steelers, and Ravens. I do admit that. But the Jets have really got something going on here. I think it is very dependent on Zach Wilson now. It really does line Zach Wilson's shoulders. I think receivers looking good. The tight end likely. I know you really like Andrew. Michael Carter and Kenneth being the running backs there. That's fantastic for them.
Yeah.
Their O-line's decent. Their defensive line's really good. Everyone forgets about Carl Lawson. He was injured the whole last year. Carl Lawson
Williams as well.
He was so good and missed most of last year. Like John Franklin Myers, the linebackers are good. They've got good safeties. They've got the cornerbacks were good last year, and now they've just gone and got Sauce Gardner. And they're just building and improving. I really could see something going on with the Jets here. I do just think it now lies on Wilson's shoulders. Does it work? There's always Baker Mayfield, I suppose. George Bulldogs, yeah, really congratulations to them. We are finding this now, aren't we? Year on year, the elite team that is the cream of the crop in college it seems to get wiped out a little bit. Unfortunately, LSU's never really recovered yet from basically their team getting drafted. I'm sure the same thing's probably going to happen to Georgia, unfortunately. And we're probably going to see a team next year that, whether it's Ohio State and Alabama are always up there. But there's always a team on that peripheral that will rise to the top again and probably have a lot of players go away, whether it be but whether it be Cincinnati. I know Ridder's gone now. Maybe they've got someone in the line for it, but that seemed like it was their year this year. Michigan maybe might have something going on. I don't know, but there'll be another team that rises to the crop. But this is how good these teams are. When this is how much the NFL coaches notice when these teams are so good and they go to national championship and there's such talent on there, and it really shows how well-rounded these teams are as well. I mean, David Ojala, like I said, not David Ojala, sorry, but that whole of the Georgia defensive line. I mean, they all went in the first round. But Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, and Devontae Wyatt all going in the first round there. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. Nakobe Dean dropped to the third round, and people.
I know, big steal.
And he's gone to the Eagles. Devin Lloyd in the first round. There's a lot going on in the college football at the minute, and it's really a joy to see how good these players are. The worry I have is now that there's a lot more payment system involved there. Is the motivation going to be there into the NFL?
Oh, yeah. When
you're young and you have so much money, why risk the rest of your life getting injury or anything like that when you can get paid a lot of money during college? And then Adam saying about you look puzzled there, Adam, by me saying getting paid and stuff.
I understand that they get paid. I just feel that they would still risk it because they want to go into the NFL because they get a chance to win Super Bowls and stuff like that. I understand, but it reaches a point where the money is not the only thing for these guys.
I understand that, but I do think there is players in the NFL going to the NFL that the money is more important than anything like that. And lastly, Adam, I've got your point now. What were you saying?
The Ravens.
The Ravens, yeah. Upsettingly for me as a Steelers fan, they have had a really good draft. They did do the best player available sort of system, and it just fell really right for them. And there is some Ravens fans who I don't think are actually very happy about it. I've heard more Ravens fans, be a bit negative about their draft than maybe from the outside looking in. But I think they see it from a different aspect of, we have Chuck Clark, we have Marcus Williams. Did we really need Carl Hamilton? Well, from all of us on the outside looking in, we go, well, that's a great pick. That's, like Andrew said time and time again, the unicorn of the draft. And then they move away Hollywood Brown. And I feel like the Ravens fans think there's a little bit of disruption there with Lamar in Baltimore. And did we really want to, piss him off by moving away his best mate? It was a little bit like the Packers fans. It felt like that Rodgers was just sort of maybe sticking around and, we draft up and we draft Jordan Love. What was the one thing we shouldn't have done to piss off Aaron Rodgers? And that's what we went and did. So it feels like maybe the Ravens fans are feeling that way of, I feel like they don't really know where they're at the minute with it. They should be a championship team, but they've not been a championship team. I just think from the outside looking in, we think they all did really well. I'm not sure whether the Ravens camper fans feel that way just yet, but the proof will be in the pudding. They're a very competitive team. They're a very good team, which will be in, I think, the weakest the division has been in probably 3 or 4 years now. We're given the Cleveland and maybe the problems they have with Watson being able to play day one. and the roster problems that I think they have in some areas. Steelers, obviously, sort of rebuilding, but still stable, I suppose. But what's Mitch Trubisky going to bring? And then the Bengals are a very good team, but there's going to be a big target on their back now because they're defending, Super Bowl finalists. I suppose they were the guys who reached the mountaintop and they touched it, but they didn't quite get the whole title. And there's a lot going on with the Ravens. It's going to be. I think it will be a very, very different season for the Ravens this year than it was last year. But no team can be that injured year on year. The Eagles have been the exception to that rule, unfortunately, a lot of the years. But hopefully the Ravens don't go away. And we want to see great quarterback play as well. Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in this league, so it's going to be really interesting watching them going forward. Lots of winning.
Sorry, can I just? There was one thing I just wanted to quickly ask. I know we're running short of time and stuff, but with the rookie quarterbacks, obviously Pickett went in the first round, which we kind of felt like was going to happen. But there was a lot of talk about these rookie quarterbacks going quite early, certainly in the first round. They all fell to the third. I mean, were we surprised by this, or
For me, I think. Again, you're right. There was a lot of talk about that, and I won't be too long on this. But for me, I'm not too surprised. I knew Pickett would go first, although people were talking about Willis. I thought Pickett would go first because he's deemed to be the older guy who's more ready. We'll see whether that's the case. But I wasn't too surprised because you look at the team needs, and there was a lot of defensive talent out there and a lot of offensive talent out there, not necessarily. And we may be proven wrong. I'm going to say not necessarily quarterback talent, but how the draft goes. Everyone has a plan. Plan goes out the window. Brady was drafted, 6th, 7th round, if I can't remember which one it was. And look how that's turned out, 7 rings later. So it's hard to say, but I wasn't necessarily surprised at the way it went, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it was a case of everybody was of a similar talent and no one could really pinpoint which one was the best one. There was lots of debate. There was a different name at the top of that list on everybody's list, really. And I think it was just a game of cat and mouse of going like, we're happy with any of these 5. So let's just see who falls to us. And like everyone just did the same thing and going, we'll take best player available. 3 of the names are still on there. We'll do that again. We'll do that again. I think that's why they dropped. I don't think it was necessarily talent based. I think it was just they liked 3 of them and were happy to take the next one in the next round. But everyone did the same.
I think it was pretty much the same point as Andrew. I think there was a lot of teams maybe not expecting other players to drop as well. And suddenly those players dropping in their lap in the second round. They're like, we thought he'd go maybe end of first or maybe start second, and he's just dropped in our lap. So, and like Andrew said as well, with the talent maybe not being a million miles away from each other, everyone was just happy to sit and wait and not be desperate and not try and trade up. Ultimately, no one in this draft has been the generational talent that was meant to be of like the Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow or Kyler or players like that who have come out in the draft recently. So I just think everyone was happy to sit and wait. Maybe the Steelers should have sat and wait. I don't know. The proof could be in the pudding. Pickett's gone to us. Am I annoyed as a Steelers fan that we pulled the trigger on the first QB on the ball because that's next year in the season that will be the conversation. Will be the Steelers took the first quarterback in the draft and all of them went lower and. Is it working out? Isn't it going to work? If you lose a few games, we're going to be vilified for it, aren't we? But I'm happy we pulled the trigger. I like that we've got the plan, and I'm really happy for the guy. I'm actually really happy where the quarterbacks all ended up as well. I know it's annoying Malik going to Tennessee, and we've talked about Vontae being loose, but I'm actually quite happy where it all fit where everyone went. So
I actually think that Sam Howell to the Commanders was an absolute steal. I really do. At the point they got them, I also think Corral at the Panthers has got a good chance there as well. So yeah, they were like the last 2 to be picked of them. So I think they're steals.
So I've got, before you wrap up, I've got 2 quick shout outs, and one is both a winner and a loser, and the other one is a winner. So I don't know if you saw, but the Vikings ex-running back, Ed Marinaro, he announced a 42nd pick. After the first round, they sort of bring out all these, legends, etc., etc. He's a winner because he took his moment and spoke for God knows how long. But he's a loser because a member of the production team actually had to come out and usher him along to actually read the pick and get the hell off the stage. So winner and loser for him. But also, I think the biggest winner is the NFL itself, because we're now seeing teams such as the Jets, the Giants, the Lions, teams that weren't so great with great picks, and they are franchise-changing picks. And hopefully what we're going to see is a bit more of an even playing field as opposed to, oh, the Giants ain't going to win, or I see you just smirking there, Andrew. So Giants are not going to win, or it's the Jets, they're trash. I think now it's going to make a better spectacle. And of course, you know, money, the NFL, they're going to love that. Increase the viewings, get more media players in the game, and everyone's happy. So big winner.
It was. NFL was the real winner because big, great names have gone to some great teams. We've had the fixtures out now. It's a lot of exciting times. And, you know, Coins George, 6th round quarterbacks can win 7 Super Bowl rings. So Bailey Zappa, you better start getting that arm ready, son, because we're going to be starting over Mack over there very time soon, and rings are coming your way. Thank you, all 3 of you, for joining me once again on the Franchise Tag Podcast. Lots of things coming this summer. We may take a little break, I suppose, maybe after this. We might be carrying on. We've not really decided yet. We're going to see what the summer brings to us. The NFL is going to calm down. Now, obviously, schedule is going to be released on the 12th of May, which is the next big thing for us. I'm sure we'll be on to talk about that. I'll certainly be looking at that because I'm planning to go to Florida in September. So I'll be definitely lining up some of the fixtures that are there. Hopefully, my Steelers will be in Florida. But until then, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe and like our YouTube channel and all our social media and all the stuff we have on the podcast streaming channels as well. Really appreciate it. Once again, glad you all enjoyed the draft, and we'll see you all very soon. Good night. Thank you.